Secrets behind famous faces. What history books never told you. What if I told you that the most famous people in history had secrets so shocking they'd make your jaw drop? Picture this: a queen who built a personal gym on her private train, a genius who walked around with deadly poison in his pockets without knowing it, and an emperor's love story that literally started a world war. Today we're diving deep into the untold stories of history's most fascinating. These aren't the sanitized versions you learned in school. These are real people with real drama, real struggles, and real human moments that'll change how you see the past forever. Let's start with someone who completely redefined what it meant to be royalty. Meet the empress who absolutely despised everything about royal life. Elizabeth of Bavaria, nicknamed Sissy, was basically the original rebel princess. While everyone expected her to smile, wave, and follow protocol, she was secretly building workout equipment into her royal train car. That's right, she had a mobile gym centuries before it was cool. She traveled constantly, not for diplomatic reasons, but because she literally couldn't stand being stuck in one palace surrounded by stuffy court rules. Now here's where it gets interesting. While Sissy was rebelling against royal expectations, there was a writer across Europe who was busy tearing apart society's pretenses with his pen. William Thackeray didn't just write stories. He wrote psychological warfare disguised as entertainment. His masterpiece wasn't about heroes saving the day. Instead, he created a world where every single character was deeply flawed, selfish, and wonderfully human. He basically invented the anti-hero novel before anyone knew what that meant. But speaking of people who changed everything, let's talk about someone whose romantic decisions literally reshaped the map of Europe. Napoleon's nephew, Napoleon III, wasn't just another politician. This guy took over France and then proceeded to completely rebuild Paris from the ground up. Those gorgeous wide streets and beautiful parks that make Paris so iconic today. That was all him. He turned a medieval city into a modern masterpiece. Unfortunately, his luck in love was better than his luck in war, and that eventually caught up with him. Meanwhile, across the English Channel, someone was accidentally starting fashion trends that would last for decades. Queen Alexandra had a tiny scar on her neck that she felt self-conscious about. So what did she do? She started wearing chokers to cover it up. Within months, every fashionable woman in Europe was copying her style. She literally turned a personal insecurity into a continental fashion statement. Talk about turning your weakness into your strength. Now let me tell you about a man who gave up everything most people spend their lives chasing. Leo Tolstoy wasn't satisfied with just being one of the world's greatest writers. After creating masterpieces like War and Peace, he had what we'd probably call a midlife crisis. Except his involved completely abandoning wealth and luxury to dress like a peasant and live as simply as possible. Imagine being that successful and then deliberately choosing to give it all away, because you believed material possessions were corrupting your soul. Speaking of people who paid a price for being different, Oscar Wilde was living proof that being too brilliant and too honest could be dangerous. His wit was so sharp it could cut glass. That famous quote about being yourself because everyone else is taken. Pure wild. But here's the tragedy. His refusal to conform to society's expectations eventually destroyed him. He challenged every social norm of his time, and Victorian society made him pay dearly for it. Then there is a love story that accidentally triggered the deadliest war in human history up to that point. Archduke Franz Ferdinand wasn't supposed to be a romantic. Royal marriages were business transactions, not love affairs. But he fell head over heels for someone the court disapproved of and married her anyway. Their love story was beautiful. Their assassination was tragic. And the consequences literally changed the entire world. One bullet, fired because of political tensions, started World War I and killed millions. While we're talking about people who changed the world, let's discuss someone who was carrying around deadly materials without realizing it. Marie Curie was so dedicated to her research that she kept test tubes of radioactive materials in her pockets like they were candy. She became the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, then won another one in a completely different field. She was basically the ultimate overachiever. Except her dedication to science was slowly killing her and she had no idea. Charles Darwin spent 5 years sailing around the world and came back with an idea so revolutionary it is still causing arguments today. Evolution by natural selection sounds simple now, but back then it was like saying the earth was round when everyone believed it was flat. He literally changed how humans understand their place in the universe. The last Russian Tsar, Nicholas II, was a man caught between his deep religious faith and the brutal realities of ruling a crumbling empire. He genuinely believed he was doing God's work, but history had other plans. His tragic end, alongside his entire family, marked the violent close of centuries of royal rule in Russia. Sometimes being a good person isn't enough when you're caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Giuseppe Garibaldi was like a real-life action hero who fought for freedom on two different continents. They called him the hero of two worlds because he led revolutionary campaigns in both South America and Europe. This guy was basically the 19th century version of an international freedom fighter. Sarah Bernhardt earned a nickname the Divine Sarah and became the world's first truly global celebrity actress. She toured everywhere from Paris to New York. And get this, she was still acting in films when she was in her 70s. She basically invented the concept of the international superstar. Thomas Edison proves that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. The man held over 1,000 patents and invented the light bulb, but he also failed more spectacularly than almost anyone in history. His attitude, he hadn't failed. He just discovered 10,000 ways that wouldn't work. That's the kind of mindset that changes the world. Emperor Franz Joseph I ruled Austria-Hungary for 68 years, making him one of Europe's longest reigning monarchs. Despite all that power and longevity, his personal life was filled with heartbreak. He lost his son to suicide and his beloved wife to an assassin. Sometimes having everything still means losing what matters most. Nikola Tesla was literally seeing the future while everyone else was stuck in the past. While Edison was promoting direct current, Tesla was championing alternating current, which is what powers your house right now. The man was a visionary who understood electricity better than almost anyone alive. President Chester Arthur is proof that sometimes the people with the lowest expectations surprise you the most. Nobody thought much of him when he took office, but he ended up fighting corruption and reforming the entire civil service system. They started calling him the gentleman president because he exceeded every expectation. Anna Pavlova made ballet a global phenomenon with her signature performance of The Dying Swan. She became the first ballerina to tour the entire world, bringing Russian ballet to audiences who had never seen anything like it. Her grace and passion moved people to tears across continents. King Edward VII waited almost 60 years to become king, longer than any heir in British history. But when he finally got his chance, he used his natural charm and diplomatic skills to modernize the monarchy and give his name to an entire era of elegance and social change. Harry Houdini wasn't just an escape artist. He was a one-man war against fraud and deception. While amazing audiences with impossible escapes, he was also dedicating his life to exposing fake spiritualists and psychic frauds. He turned magic into a fearless fight for truth. Charles Dickens transformed his own childhood hardships into stories that still move us today. Oliver Twist and A Christmas Carol weren't just entertainment. They were social activism disguised as fiction, giving voice to the poor and forgotten of 19th century England. President James Garfield's story is one of the most tragic what-ifs in American history. This self-made man rose from poverty to the presidency only to be shot by an assassin just months into his term. His long, painful fight to survive gripped the entire nation and led to major political reforms after his death. Queen Victoria ruled for over 63 years and turned Britain into the most powerful nation on earth. Her era didn't just shape England, it shaped the entire modern world. She was the ultimate symbol of empire, family, and tradition during a time of massive global change. Louis Pasteur literally saved millions of lives by proving that germs cause disease. He invented vaccines and created pasteurization, fundamentally changing medicine forever. Before Pasteur, people didn't even understand why they got sick. Lily Langtry became the world's first celebrity simply for being herself. She was beautiful, talented, and charismatic enough to charm even future kings. She basically invented the concept of being famous for being famous, decades before social media made it common. In 1906, Gandhi launched his first nonviolent resistance campaign in South Africa, creating Satyagraha, his philosophy of truth and peaceful protest. This was the birth of the movement that would eventually shake the British Empire and inspire civil rights leaders around the world. Mark Twain gave us timeless wisdom wrapped in humor and storytelling. His observation that history doesn't repeat itself, but often rhymes, is still quoted today because it captures something fundamental about human nature and how patterns echo through time. Matilda Kishizinska was not only one of Russia's greatest ballerinas, but also the mistress of the future Tsar Nicholas II. She lived at the intersection of art and power, beauty and politics, in a way that defined an entire era of Russian culture. Victor Hugo wasn't content with just writing novels. He was a political activist and poet whose masterpieces like Les and The Hunchback of Notre Dame became symbols of compassion and social justice that still inspire people today. Frederick Douglass was born into slavery but became one of history's most powerful voices for freedom and equality. His speeches and writings helped fuel the abolitionist movement and continue to inspire anyone fighting for justice. Louise Michel, known as the Red Virgin, was a passionate activist who fought for workers' rights and women's equality during the Paris Commune of 1871. Even after being exiled for her beliefs, she never stopped fighting for what she believed was right. Presidents Hayes and Harrison both worked to restore integrity to American politics after periods of scandal and corruption. Hayes focused on civil service reform, while Harrison tackled monopolies with the Sherman Antitrust Act, helping shape America's economic future. Kaiser Wilhelm I oversaw the unification of various German states into the German Empire, fundamentally reshaping the balance of power in Europe and setting the stage for conflicts that would dominate the next century. Mary Todd Lincoln was a woman of remarkable strength and intelligence who supported her husband through America's darkest hour. Her role as First Lady during the Civil War required a combination of public grace and private resilience that few could have managed. General Ulysses S. Grant led the Union Army to victory in the Civil War, then worked as president to enforce civil rights for freed slaves during Reconstruction. His military genius was clearer than his political skills, but his commitment to equality was unwavering. Dr. Mary Edwards Walker became the first woman to receive the Medal of Honor for her service as a Civil War surgeon. She was also a trailblazer for gender equality, famously wearing pants instead of dresses and fighting for women's rights in medicine. General Robert E. Lee remains one of American history's most complex and controversial figures. His brilliant military tactics made him a Confederate icon, but his legacy continues to spark debate about heroism, loyalty, and the complicated nature of historical memory. Colette broke every social taboo with her bold, sensuous writing about female independence and sexuality. Her work challenged conventional ideas about women and relationships, making her one of France's most celebrated and controversial literary figures. And finally, Abraham Lincoln, whose leadership during America's greatest crisis and commitment to abolishing slavery made him one of history's most beloved presidents. His wisdom, compassion, and dedication to unity continue to inspire people around the world. These weren't just names in history books. These were real people with real emotions, real struggles, and real impact on the world we live in today. Their courage, creativity, and determination continue to echo through time, reminding us that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. What fascinates you most about these historical figures? Which story surprised you the most? Drop a comment below and let me know which of these amazing people you do want to learn more about. And if you enjoyed discovering the human side of history, hit that subscribe button because we've got so many more incredible stories to explore together.